In the early 1900s, the world was obsessed with a new miracle. It wasn't electricity or the automobile. It was a glowing element called radium. Discovered by Marie Curie, it was hailed as a cure from everything from blindness to old age. It was in your drinking water, your face powder, and even your toothpaste. But for the young women in the factories of New Jersey and Illinois, radium wasn't just science. It was their ticket to a high-paying, glamorous life. They were the Radium Girls, and they had no idea they were painting their own death sentences. Imagine you're 18 years old working for the United States Radium Corporation. Your job is prestigious, painting the dials of watches so they glow in the dark for soldiers on the front lines. To get the finest line possible, your supervisors give you a simple technical instruction. Lip, dip, paint. You lick the brush with your lips to sharpen the point, dip it into the glowing green radium paste, and paint the numbers. You do this hundreds, sometimes thousands of times a day. Every time your tongue touches that brush, you're swallowing the most radioactive poison known to man. And they told you it was perfectly safe. The pay was incredible, but the perks were even stranger. After a long shift, when you walked home and stepped into a dark room, your clothes, your hair, even your skin would emit a soft, supernatural blue-green glow. You were the envy of the town. You'd wear your best dresses to the dance halls, just so everyone could see you shining in the dark. They called you the Ghost Girls. You felt like a star, a luminous being from the future. It was the most beautiful time of your life, right before your bones started turning into dust. The nightmare didn't begin with a bang. It began with a tooth. One morning you're eating dinner and a molar simply falls out. No pain, no warning. But then the hole in your gums refuses to heal. Instead, it starts to abscess, emitting a foul odor that no medicine can mask. You go to the dentist and he pulls another tooth, only to find the bone underneath is soft, gray, and crumbling like wet chalk. You're only 22 years old, but your body is starting to rot from the inside out. What you didn't know, and what the company wouldn't tell you, was that radium is a bone seeker. Because it mimics calcium, your body was taking that poison and building it directly into your skeleton. Inside your jaw, your hips, and your spine, the radium was firing millions of microscopic alpha particles every single second. It was like a machine gun firing at a cellular level, blasting jagged holes through your living tissue. Scientists would later call it radium jaw. The bone became so brittle, so unstable, that it literally glowed under X-rays. In the most horrific cases, a woman's entire lower jawbone would become detached from her skull. It was a slow, agonizing dissolution of the human frame. You weren't just dying, you were being hollowed out by the very light you once thought was a blessing. The first to go was Molly Maggia. Her death was a roadmap of the horror to come. By the time she died in 1922, her jaw had completely disintegrated, and the infection had eaten through her jugular vein. She bled to death in a hospital bed, her throat filled with the black blood of a poisoned life. But the United States Radium Corporation didn't send flowers. Instead, they watched the headlines and prepared their defense. They knew the Ghost Girls were ticking bombs, and as the bodies began to pile up, the corporate machine moved to ensure that the truth stayed buried deeper than the victims. By 1924, the United States Radium Corporation knew they had a catastrophe on their hands. To quiet the growing rumors, they hired a specialist from Harvard, Dr. Cecil Drinker, to conduct an independent study of the factory. Drinker's findings were a death knell. He found that the entire facility was saturated with radium dust. Every surface, every chair, and every girl was glowing under the lens. His report stated clearly that the girls were dying because of the factory conditions. But the public never saw that report. Instead, the company president edited it, replaced the warnings with praise for the factory's safety, and submitted the forged version to the Department of Labor. The truth was locked in a safe, while the girls continued to lick their brushes. But the cover-up went deeper than just paperwork. As the girls' families began to demand compensation, the company struck back with a weapon more powerful than medicine: social shame. They hired corporate doctors to falsify death certificates. They claimed the rotting jaws and the collapsing spines weren't caused by radium, but by syphilis. In the 1920s, a diagnosis of syphilis was a social death sentence, a brand of immorality. By labeling these dying women as promiscuous, the company turned the public against them and shattered their reputations. They weren't just killing these women, they were making sure they died in disgrace. To solidify the lie, the company brought in their own experts, men like Frederick Flynn, who posed as a medical doctor but had no medical degree. Flynn would look at a girl whose teeth were falling out into her hands and tell her she was perfectly healthy, or that her pain was all in her head. This was the birth of modern corporate gaslighting. It was a machine designed to protect the bottom line by erasing human reality. But the ghost girls were tired of being ghosts. They were about to step out of the shadows and into the one place the company couldn't control: the courtroom. By 1927, most of the Radium Girls were already ghosts in waiting. They were bedridden, their bodies crumbling, their bank accounts drained by useless medical bills. But 5 women refused to die quietly. They did something unheard of at the time. They sued the United States Radium Corporation. The press quickly dubbed them the Society of the Living Dead. They weren't fighting for a cure. They knew there wasn't one. They were fighting to hold the machine accountable before their time ran out. But the company had one final, cruel strategy. They decided to wait for the girls to die. The legal battle was a war of attrition. The corporation's lawyers used every trick in the book to delay the trial. They argued that the statute of limitations had passed, claiming the girls should have sued years ago, even though the symptoms hadn't appeared until it was too late. Months turned into a year. Every time a court date approached, the company found a reason to postpone. They knew that with every passing day, the plaintiffs were getting weaker. By the time they finally made it to the first hearing, the women were so frail they couldn't even raise their hands to take the oath. They were testifying from wheelchairs and stretchers, their voices barely a whisper, while the clock on the wall ticked away their remaining hours. Just when it seemed the company would successfully wait out the lives of the victims, a young idealistic lawyer named Raymond Berry took the case pro bono. He saw through the corporate fog and pushed for an immediate settlement. The public outcry was reaching a fever pitch. Even Marie Curie, the woman who discovered radium, expressed her horror at what was happening in America. The ghost girls had become a symbol of a broken system. They were dying, yes, but they were doing something the corporation never expected. They were winning the war of public opinion. The courtroom was no longer just a room of law. It had become a stage for a final act of human dignity. In the autumn of 1928, a settlement was finally reached. The U.S. Radium Corporation agreed to pay each of the girls a lump sum and an annual pension while covering all their past and future medical bills. It was a win on paper, but for the Society of the Living Dead, it was a hollow one. Most of them were too weak to even celebrate. They spent their final days in quiet agony, watching the very settlement money they fought for go toward the lead-lined coffins they would soon inhabit. They died as heroes, but they died far too young, their bodies literally glowing until their final breath. The sacrifice of the Radium Girls didn't just end with a check. Their case fundamentally shifted the legal landscape of America. It paved the way for the creation of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA. For the first time, workers had the right to sue for damages caused by workplace hazards. Before them, an employee was considered responsible for their own safety. After them, the burden shifted to the corporation. Every safety warning, every protective suit, and every labor law we have today is written in the radioactive ink of their suffering. They changed the world by losing their lives to it. But the most haunting part of this story isn't found in the law books. It's found 6 feet under the soil of Illinois and New Jersey. Radium-226 has a half-life of 1,600 years. This means that if you were to walk through those cemeteries today with a Geiger counter, the ground would still scream. Inside their lead-lined coffins, the bones of the Radium Girls are still glowing, still firing alpha particles into the dark. They are truly the luminous dead, destined to shine in their graves for another millennium. Their light hasn't faded, and now neither will their story. The archive is open. Subscribe.